Now, I would like to introduce, and it's my great pleasure, to introduce a leader from the Western Balkans, whose voice has become, in Brussels and elsewhere, a synonym for creativity, ambition, and also commitment to the European future, the Prime Minister of Albania, Rama. Just yesterday, Albania reached a very important and major milestone on its path towards European Union by opening all the chapters of the negotiations. So thank you very much. And on the other hand, we need to say that Albania is one of the countries where more than 90% of the citizens really have a strong public support for EU enlargement. So that is a testimony that when there's a will, there's a way. Prime Minister.
Dear friends of Europe, dear Gertjan, and through you, dear Marta, thank you for the invitation and for placing me once again on this familiar battlefield of ideas about Europe's future, which lies ahead of us, with all its shades of gray and still the light of its remarkably resilient promise. I'm invited to speak about enlargement, but I must confess, on the way here I caught myself wondering what more can I possibly say about it. I've spoken about enlargement so often that sometimes I fear I could publish a book illustrating the evolution of my hair through the years, titled The Complete Anatomy of an Enlargement Yet to Happen. And still, guess what? I will neither give up on enlargement nor risk running out of words when it comes to it, because enlargement is simply another word for Europe's future itself. It is precisely this inseparable link between enlargement and future that pushes me to speak about it, not simply as the Prime Minister of Albania, not just as the representative of a negotiating country, but as a European citizen of a continent whose story is a tapestry, woven from war and peace, destruction and rebirth, rivalry and reconciliation. Let me say it very clearly, instead of using the Brussels-born, technically heavy term enlargement, I prefer the word that speaks from the heart of our history and from the logic of our future reunification. Because that is what it truly is, the simple truth, a historical imperative, the only path for a continent that must rediscover its confidence, defend its peace, protect its prosperity, and maintain its relevance in a world moving fast, hard, and without mercy. I have here a few words for Marta, the woman that in less than 2 weeks completed her first year as our Commissioner for Enlargement. It feels like yesterday, not because time flies, which it does, and trust me, the more you age, the faster it flies, right, Federica? But because she made this months dance with movement, dance with results, and I must say dance with an enthusiasm that until recently I thought Brussels had buried with no chance for rebirth. Yesterday, Albania opened the last 5 negotiating chapters. 28 of them under Marta's leadership. To be honest, not only can I not remember, but I cannot even imagine when enlargement last produced so much constructive discussions, so much positive pressure, and so much genuine political oxygen. And allow me to remind this room of something. For Albania, this journey has not been a straight path of applause. We came from a long way. First, stigmatized and underestimated because of an international image shaped by our own bad deeds, but also by the amplified stereotypes of Western media. Later, we were appreciated by the Commission for our genuine extra efforts, yet refused by the Council for the sake of internal politics in a few member states. And we had to live 3 moments of humiliation that tested our patience, our faith in Europe, and our will to keep going. I'll never forget, because they are marked in my memory, the pale faces of European Council members after long night meetings here in Brussels, telling the cameras the EU did not deliver on its promises to Albania. But as Nietzsche would say, what did not kill us made us stronger. And the humiliation revealed itself as a blessing in disguise. We kept going with one firm conviction. We don't do it for Berlin, Paris, or The Hague. We do it for ourselves, for our country, and for our generations to come. The EU is our open source of know-how. We learn faster, we continue to improve, and we keep going as if the negotiations were already open, preparing ourselves to be fully up and running when the right moment would finally present itself. And here we are, standing straight and standing tall after opening in only 14 months all chapters, having regained a huge amount of lost time and having placed ourselves in the front of the Western Balkans bloc. Let me underline that this mesmerizing success is not ours alone to claim. In the last years, under the leadership of President von der Leyen, the Commission got back to the center of the game. And in these 12 months, thanks to Marta, to her team, a complex orchestra was conducted, aligning instruments long out of tune, creating harmony where for years there was dissonance, and restoring the precious trust between the European Union and those who aspire to join it. And on the other hand, there are the member states, with a renewed vigor for the great project of reunification, under the striking and sobering light of Russia's aggression against Ukraine. I am sincerely grateful to all, and as a witty Brit once wrote, I would maintain that thanks are the highest form of thought, and that gratitude is happiness doubled by wonder. Dear friends, in the latest European barometer about attitudes towards EU enlargement, Albania hit the top of the chart, with 92% of people faithful to the European Union and 91% supportive of EU accession. But let me first set this record straight and make sure that you don't even dare to think that the remaining 8% or 9% are unfaithful to the EU or, God forbid, against EU accession. No. They simply happen to be asked by the survey people right after a dispute with their wives or husbands, or in the middle of a nerve-wracking Tirana traffic jam, or simply just in the last minutes of the Football World Cup qualifiers against Serbia. So if you take away these interferences of daily life factors, Albanians are 100% faithful to the EU and 100% supportive to the EU accession. No joke. Let me now tell you what's wrong with us. By starting with a reminder about something many in the European Union, born into velvet peace, raised with cushions of permanent growth, and used to a comfort zone where even the volume of snoring is regulated not to disturb the cat sleeping beside the bed, gradually forgot, remembering how and why Europe was born. It was born when our continent was torn in two. An iron curtain, made not of metal but of ideology and fear, cut through nations, families, destinies. Behind it, the roaring beast of totalitarianism, reminding everyone on the Western side that the threat towards freedom, democracy, and peace was real, was close, was worth the creative efforts proportionate to the dangers which threaten it, as it was put in that exact sentence of the Schuman Declaration of May 9th, 1950. And doesn't it sound painfully actual? Well, the Albanians did not need Vladimir Putin's roars at the gates of the European Union to feel the dangers threatening us and the Union itself, also through the Western Balkans. Nor did we need to struggle much to remember the long, deep darkness of totalitarianism from which we rushed into the streets of Tirana, screaming, "We want Albania like all Europe." For us, the EU is still today what it was for the founding fathers. As simple as that. A crazy idea at the time, a revolutionary idea. Ancient enemies could become partners. Sovereignty could be pooled with the common good and for the common good. That peace could be built not on domination but on cooperation and solidarity under the same sky of freedom and in the light of democracy. And despite doubts, despite obstacles, the idea made its way. And the project transformed itself into the European Union, the most visionary model of peaceful integration in human history. When not long ago, what's in this page that it's so shy to come out? Yes, 6.5 decades later, this remains very true. No one has ever built anything like it, and no one ever will. So better be part of it. That is what Albanians think, want, and will do, whatever it will take, because we learned in the hard way that peace is the only battle worth waging, and the Founding Fathers' way is the only one worth following. When not long ago enlargement was practically banned as a word from the EU vocabulary, it smelled to me like a betrayal of the very reason for which the European Union was put in motion. Because in my eyes, enlargement carries the most powerful answer to the question, what does the European Union stand for? And let me rank here just 5 simple truths. Reunification heals historical wounds. It reconnects nations whose destinies were forcibly separated. It recognizes the intrinsic European identity of those kept outside by force, not by choice. France and Germany once taught all of us how enemies can rebuild trust, and enlargement continues that legacy. Interrupting that continuity is simply betraying the EU itself. Second, reunification extends the zone of peace. The EU's foundational purpose is peace. Every enlargement has expanded not just the geography of the Union, but the geography of stability, democracy, and rule of law. It goes without saying that a Europe whole and free will be safer the moment the EU ceases to exist as the only geopolitical creature with 2 borders, the external border and the internal one, circumcising the Western Balkan countries within the rest. 3, reunification fulfills an old promise to those who fought for freedom, who embraced democracy with courage. Europe was a beacon. This was also the message of Thessaloniki in 2003. Just imagine, just dare to imagine for a single moment the Baltic states and Poland today outside of the EU and of NATO. But that old promise must be kept in its entirety, and not keeping it by keeping us, Western Balkan countries outside the EU, is not only playing with fire. The fire already burning at the Union's external border, but also burning in that fire the moral authority of the European Union itself. For reunification unleashes prosperity. Yes, enlargement is not only political, it is economic too. New members expand the market, bring dynamism, innovation, and youthful energy. And the Western Balkans, let alone Albania and Montenegro to start with, are not a burden at all. On the contrary, we bring resources, location, population, energy, assets for the Union's future. And last but not least, we bring a large smile to the EU's very often dark face. Not bad. At all. Imagine a European Union smiling every morning. 5, enlargement works. Every time the EU invited new members, the benefit outweighed the fears. Every time. Numbers show it, facts illustrate. There is no reason, none, to believe it will be different now. On the contrary, the sooner it happens, the better it will be for the EU. And let me continue to cap the rope, but by adding that, yes, we need an answer. I mean, we, on our side, for all those who say it doesn't work with 27. How can it work with 29, 33, or even 35? With all their vetoes and all their commissioners to start with? Well, true. If we see it from that angle, it can't work. But we can make it work if we put the EU first and leave our national egos at bay for a while. No vetoes, no commissioners for us. How does it sound? It's doable. So let's talk. Dear friends, our planet spins in one direction, but the world does not. The world is feverish, is turbulent, is unpredictable, more and more. Thinking that anything will go back to the old normal is a dangerous delusion. Acting based in such a delusion is dangerously reckless, and it just grows the pain of the inevitable awakening. Democracy is in retreat. Demagoguery is in advance. Human rights are under attack. Our system is challenged from without and from within. Geopolitical storms are gathering. Not only a divided Europe is weaker, more vulnerable to pressure, manipulation, and malign influence, but it looks more like an attractive prey for aggressors and speculators than like a strong competitor in the new game of big powers. Reunification through enlargement is Europe's most strategic response. It is the core of European strategic autonomy. A united Europe is a Europe that shapes its destiny, not one that drifts inside somebody else's storm. Those who oppose enlargement often speak of costs, but they neglect the bill presented by non-enlargement. Just to mention a few ingredients of a longer list: sense of powerlessness, economic stagnation, geopolitical penetration by actors who wear friendly faces but do not share European values, a Europe with a hole in its heart, a Europe with a permanent vulnerability on its periphery, a Europe that betrays its own founding idea, is a Europe not fit to survive the new game as a big player. Reunification is not a favor granted by old members to new ones. It is a shared destiny, a shared burden, a shared now and tomorrow in a world where EU needs the rest as much as the rest need EU, if not more. So to come to the end, sometimes I have to answer a not easy question. Why should the EU care about getting Albania at the table? Well, I believe the answer is easier than the question. Welcome, the Russian delegation. So I'm repeating this because someone very important just took a seat. And I was saying, David, sometime I have to answer a not easy question. Why should the EU care about getting Albania at the table? Well, it seems to me that the answer is easier than the question. Albania brings to the table the old great spirit of Europe and adds to its crown, another small precious gem, not only without any cost worth mentioning, but with the benefit of an example that will serve the EU in the short and the long term. Albania is ready, we are fully committed, and we have demonstrated it. We have delivered reforms, and we are not going to stop for even a minute. We are investing in our future with the mindset of a country that already feels responsible towards the Union day by day. We ask nothing but the opportunity to serve Europe so that Europe may serve peace, as Jean Monnet would say in our case too. And to truly conclude, because you know how it goes with Balkan men when they take the floor. They always promise to conclude and they are unconclusive. But I'm really concluding, without betraying the Balkan man in me, of course, by allowing myself to indulge lecturing Marta Kos. I believe that Marta, while is writing history with us, should make sure that history writes about her into its pages, which is why when her mandate ends, she simply must publish a book titled The Complete Anthology of an Enlargement of My Making. And I give Marta my word with the whole Balkan neighborhood here present as witness that I'll graciously refrain from claiming copyright for Albania's chapter. So thank you very much for your patience, which is very inspiring to me because I'm told that mostly of you are coming from the same neighborhood. And having a young generation so patient shows that European Union torture is working on us. And in the same time proves that we are ready to be part of the European Union without bringing headaches from the Balkans, but helping them to endure their Balkanization process, which is already going on in many of their countries. Thank you so much.
Prime Minister Rama, thank you very much for your inspiring and powerful message. We know now why leaders of Albania, the other countries in the regions that we have been talking today, should be at the table. Thank you for bringing the reunification concept. This is very important. Actually, that's what we have been discussing all this morning.